Thank you all for coming to the 11th annual Friends of the Air Force Enlisted Village Reception. We're very grateful that you're here. I want to say thank you to our hosts for coming out this evening and helping us put this event on. General North, Susie Schwartz, Secretary Peters, and our civic leader, Bernard Johnson. Thank you so much for your support year over year. Also want to say thank you to our board members that are here, Ms. Molly Raymond and Secretary Peters again. Want to welcome Secretary Lohmeyer for being here. Thank you so much for joining us today. General Alvin, General Schwartz is here somewhere, and I know General Raymond is here as well. Want to say thank you also to AFA and to General Field in particular for allowing us to have this on their party, so to speak. So thank you, sir, for letting us come over. We also want to say thank you to our friends at Textron Bell and Shannon Hines and Pete Robichaux for the work that they do to support us throughout this. So we are at an interesting time for the Air Force Enlisted Village. We're getting ready to start more construction. So we have about 600 residents right now. We have 190 people that are on our wait list wanting to move in. So we're going to build 51 more units that are going to allow about 100 people to move in. We're going to start breaking ground on that next month. So the 16th of October, we will get our money from the bankers, yay. And then the next day, we're going to break ground and get started. So that will be, yes, thank you very much, yes. That will be a big event for us, obviously. It will be completed in the spring of 2027. So fast forward, we'll be signing people up. So if you know anybody that wants to move to the village, send them over quick and we'll get them signed up. My friends over in the marketing department would like to highlight these very cool coasters that we have, right, Kelly? There's a QR code on there and you can learn all about the village and your QR code, and it might link into your bank account too. So scan that as quickly as you can. So seriously, we're very grateful that you're here. This has become a wonderful event and an opportunity for people to come together and to socialize in a relaxed environment. And again, we want to thank you all for coming out tonight. And I'd like to turn it over to Secretary Lohmeyer and let him make some opening comments for us, sir.
I heard Molly Raymond's name come up and Jay Raymond's name came up, and so I've heard this twice, and I have to put you on the spot and make you blush, sir. I traveled the world with General Raymond here just a few years ago. See, he's already blushing. You can look right by. This morning on my way into the AFA conference, I saw General Raymond driving right next to me, and he didn't see me, but I was so excited to get his attention that I rolled down my window and was waving out the side window, and I nearly rear-ended the car that was in front of me. So I'm saying hi for the first time today, really, right now, since I last saw you 12 hours ago, but happy to see you guys. Let me just say something for maybe 2 or 3 minutes. After having spent time in both a fighter cockpit and also doing space-based missile warning for our Space Force and getting a broad umbrella picture of the work that our airmen and guardians do in both the Air Force and the Space Force, I spent some time in the civilian world as well. Literally, I think the second day that I had come back into the seat and become the undersecretary, I was read in and I had a brief on Operation Midnight Hammer. And I got to hear, going from civilian life to that environment and hearing from our fighter pilots and our bomber pilots and our tanker folks, and to hear that the kind of excellent work that our airmen are able to do on short notice for critical missions in defense of our country and our allies and in support of our country's priorities nearly brought me to tears. And all I could think to say at the end of that meeting was, God bless our men and women in uniform. So happy to see that. And so when I get to come to events like we're here for tonight and hear about people that support our Air Force airmen, I'm very grateful to participate in those events. I'm really happy to be here among family and friends, and thank you for all of the work that you're doing here, and happy to be able to be here with you tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Please help me welcome a dear friend of ours, Miss Susie Schwartz.
I never think I'm short until I stand up behind somebody who's apparently taller than I am. Anyway, welcome everybody. You know me, I haven't thought about what I'm going to say at all. Words just come out sometimes. It's been a different year for me a little bit this year. The loss of my mother on Mother's Day and the loss of a dear friend about a month ago. And it's kind of made me reflect. My mother was a military spouse. I'm a military spouse. Chris Otto, military spouse. And what makes military spouses great is that at a certain point, we're about diversity, we're about positivity, we're about family. I stand before you as a person who is here because other people fought for my rights, for my opportunity to have a voice. My mother fought for my opportunity to have a voice. So I'm standing before you, no matter what's happening around us, as a person who's always going to fight for military families that have the right to stay in a beautiful place like Air Force Enlisted Village. I can't believe that Brooke, well, he may never allow me to speak again, but I can't believe he continues to ask me to say a few words. But what makes a military spouse different is at a certain point she realizes her family has just gotten bigger. And hopefully that stays with her for a long, long time. Her family includes her immediate family, but it also includes all of you. And the opportunity to make a difference. Yes, I'm not getting younger, but I still love to try to make a difference. I head to Little Rock tomorrow for the opening of a Fisher House at the Little Rock VA on Friday. So I still try to give back as many military spouses have done, including all the families that probably live at the Air Force Enlisted Village. For those of you who don't know, years ago, when I first entertained the idea of maybe expanding the Air Force Village, I said, "Are you crazy?" I said, "You're a nut. What is wrong with you? I'm not supporting that." I mean, yeah, does that sound just like me? It kind of does. But I still continue to support it. And I thank all of you in this room for finding ways to support it in all kinds of different ways. And I'd also like to say, if you're down there, if you're at Eglin, if you're out at Hurlburt, go by and visit the Air Force Enlisted Village. Visit part of your family that currently resides at the Air Force Enlisted Village. Thank you all for being here so much, and thank you for listening to me today.
I'm going to take the shorter steps next time. I'm now going to invite my good friend Bernard Johnson to come up and speak on behalf of civic leaders. He's, for those of you that don't know Bernard, he's a powerhouse in the Panhandle and really all across Florida, and he happens to work for Florida Power and Light. So there could be a little pun in there, but let's bring Bernard up and let him do some speaking.
Working for the power company, you got an option. I think I'm going to start on Wednesdays, probably having Wacky Watt Wednesday, where you buy a watt and get a watt free. So I think we're going to do something like that. But I'll probably get a couple more approvals before I announce that. So don't take that outside this room. But I'm glad to be here. Appreciate you guys. Appreciate your support, our senior leaders and all our community members. You guys, I mean, this is what makes things happen, right? And this is an outstanding opportunity for us to kind of engage and kind of hang out with each other. We have our civic leader folks that are here. If you're a civic leader, if you raise your hand, there you go. Got our crew here. So we had the opportunity to travel a little bit, and we traveled on C-17s. And I've come to the conclusion that the only difference between traveling on a C-17 and traveling or flying in a Home Depot is nothing. I mean, you know, it's like flying in a Home Depot, right, in a C-17. So we had the opportunity to do that. So we have some other trips coming up. We're just kind of hanging out, and also it's been good to see the mission sets around the world and all that we do. But, you know, we want to talk more so from a community engagement piece, you know, what civic leaders do. And so we're, you know, General Alvin said it very well this morning when he said, we're not messengers, you know, but we're civic leaders. And we had the opportunity to be in environments and be in settings that, you know, are with C-level folks, that are with decision makers, and that's what we do. And so, you know, we advocate for the military and all that takes place, and we advocate for, obviously, Air Force Enlisted Village, but that's what we enjoy doing, and that's what we're going to continue to do. So Our local support is very strong. General Collins here, General Massaro's here, so we appreciate these guys being here and all that they do to support and represent the community, and just that engagement. We look at some of the low-hanging fruit stuff, which may be around. It could be Purple Star schools, which is a big deal. Where schools are equipped and committed to support military members and their families. You look at the CDCs. The issue with CDCs was, well, we had a hard time with spaces. Now we're having a hard time with faces. But we're working on that piece there. So a lot of engagement on that. Dealing with the traffic issues. It's all about mission readiness and ensuring that military members can come and go and do what they need to do. And recently, also, we did with Dale Marshall there. We did a Black Start project, and as you know, that's just shutting the whole base down and seeing what the reaction is going to be. And obviously, you have folks that work on the base, 12 to 20,000, but not everybody lives on the base. And so you got to look at the community impacts and how they're going to travel and get to where they need to be and do what they need to do on the utility side and all those pieces there. So looking at the big stuff, I would think that you probably heard of, I don't know if you heard of Williams International. So that's a big operation out of Pontiac, Michigan. And they manufacture aircraft engines for the military and for the commercial. So they're going to be setting up shop in our town there in Crestview. It's a $1.04 billion investment. So groundbreaking on that's going to be at the end of October. So obviously that's going to benefit our military members as well, and jobs and creation and those that are retired in the region. Just a lot of exciting things that are going on there. So, but we appreciate the engagement, appreciate the opportunity. Brooke's done an outstanding job. And when we talk about relationships, you're talking about dealings that you have with commissioners, council members, superintendents, sheriffs, and all. And we have organizations and groups that we all just kind of get together and have think tanks, and all those things work. The Enlisted Village is part of those conversations because of what the mission is doing and what it's doing to make sure that we have our senior members that have passed on, but those that are remaining family members and widows have a place to stay and be safe. So you run a great operation, Brooke. We appreciate this time. And I will tell you this, I'll leave you with this, that when you're in a hurry, may all your green lights be green. All right?
All right, we have been blessed by having supporters from around the Air Force for many, many years. One of the first people that came alongside when I took over as the CEO was Secretary Whit Peters, and he joined us as our board member and has been a tremendous counselor and mentor to me. And organizationally, he's provided that wisdom that we need to kind of stay steady and to stay on the right path. So, Mr. Secretary, if you would please join us for some comments.
The older I get, the more I associate myself with the enlisted village. And these stairs, I think, are testimony to Susie and me. I think Brooke should still hop up that. But thank you all for coming. Let me say thank you particularly to Bill and Textron for your support. Without your money, we wouldn't be able to do this. So thank you so much. So this event is one that Brooke and I cooked up when I was chairman of AFA. And Brooke said, hey, we ought to have a party. We really need to introduce senior leadership to the Air Force charities, of which there are 4. And I would ask the undersecretary to name them, but I know he's only been on board for 3 weeks, so I'm not going to do that. But we have I think we have all of them represented here tonight. So the charities are really important. They do different things. Many of you may know Air Force Aid because it appears to help people on your bases. Air Force Enlisted Village is just a critical part of taking care of our airmen throughout their time. The people who are there are, people different ages. Many of them are my age, which is 79. I was drafted. My draft board really liked me and drafted me out of college in 1968. And many of the people at the enlisted village are kind of my vintage. At that time, the enlisted pay for people in the all the services was ridiculously low. I think about half of my people were on food stamps. It's really only since the early 70s and going into the 80s that pay has gotten to a point where you could say to somebody, maybe you ought to think about putting money away for retirement. There was no money to go away for retirement. So the village is really important. It has grown a lot. I think this is my 17th year on the board. Now I think I've set the record. I did 14 years on the Air Force Aid Board. I decided that might be enough and they should get rid of me. But it's a great place. I urge you to come down. I think it's really critical to the Air Force to be able to say to all of the enlisted and officers, we have a place where you can stay in a safe environment and be with people who are friends. So that's what Enlisted Village is. I'm happy that we started this 11 years ago. I now think it's almost become kind of a food stamp program for Chief Master Sergeants. It's a slightly different kind of food stamp, but our hope was that the chiefs would go back and tell all their enlisted folks that they ought to provide money for AFA and AFEV and Air Force Aid, and hope that still happens. We're very, very happy to have all the senior enlisted here. It's a joy to see everybody together, and I guess it's not a national security event because I don't see any planes flying over, but if we were taken out tonight, I don't know what the Air Force would do. So thank you more for coming.
I still call him boss when I see him, so please let me welcome General Gary North to the podium.
All right, folks, as Brooke has said, I used to work for him. Those of you who've been here more than a couple of years know this. I would ask this, because apparently I'm the closer before the entertainment and the real discussion with the resident. And Brooke always says, sir, you're a little aggressive in telling people what to do. So I'm not going to do that because I'm an old retired guy. But what I would say is, if you were here at this reception for the village for your first time, raise your hand, please. Because y'all are the folks I'm going after. The beauty of this is, I don't know whether, from the Florida Power Company, we offended the C-17 or we offended Home Depot. I'm not sure. And Mr. Secretary, I think the chiefs are going to take you out for a run. But the good news is this is really family. And every year when we gather, whether it's here or every year when we get to see each other for the events, we always remember a couple things. We are family. We're a big family. We've got great men and women that have served for decades. Those who have departed and left others of their family behind need love, need caring, need support, and that support is in multiple ways. And those who have lost people recently understand the absolute hollow part in their hearts it is. And so in this environment, what Brooke and his team have done, and those who were before him, they have provided a place to ensure that those that served alongside those in uniform have a loving place to be. They've got family to take care of, and they have an extended group of men and women who care just like we care for each other when we're in harm's way, when we have to care, Chief, when we're on the staff. I mean, it is a fact of life. And in the environment, it brings together those who have served, those who support from an industry standpoint. And this is important business. Taking care of our people is really important business. I was on a panel today, and I very briefly said, I'm wearing yellow, and I'm wearing blue. A lot of people understood what that meant. At the end of the panel, as I was walking away, a couple airmen came up and said, sir, what do you mean by that? And so in the environment, when you think about that, those that are in specific trenches every day, taking care of people or doing the Lord's work in our business, they get it. But on occasion, we're also busy that we forget that those who have moved on, lost someone, and still need care and hope and love for the continuation, they're part of our family. And so we've all been blessed in many ways by how we serve, who we serve with, who we commune with. And in that environment, when you think about it, is how do you continue to give? Whether it's your time, whether it's your service, whether it's your money, whether it's your support, whether it's the capability that you bring forward. So I would ask this, as we gather for these 3 days with AFA, we think about all of those things that we can continue to contribute to our respective communities, and remember and respect those who have gone before us and support those that have been left behind. And I think the village and the work that Brooke and his team are doing are fantastic, and I hope you think the same way and you can figure out a way to help in any way that you can, because it is critically important. Thank you.
And we have a treat tonight. We don't always do this, but this evening we have one of our residents that has come with us from Florida, and she's going to come up and relay a little bit about her story. This is Diane Jernigan. She's been with us for a few years. She actually works part-time with us at our front desk. She's a director of First Impressions, and I think she's pretty darn good at it. So we're grateful that she's going to come up and share just a little bit, which hopefully will make this a little bit more real. It's one thing to talk about buildings and locations and everything else, but as the general said, this is this family stuff, and this is about the heart. Ms. Diane?
Thank you. Thank you. I'm glad to be here. This is my first time to be here, but I'm enjoying it. It's great. I just want to share a little bit about my story with Air Force Enlisted Village. Believe it or not, I first heard about widows needing an affordable place to live when I was just a teenager, because I was living at Eglin Air Force Base with my family. And I remember I could hear people talking about, we have to do something about the widows. They can't afford to live any place. They're just not doing well. And I remember them talking about that in the late 60s when I was a teenager. So it seems like I've always known about Bob Hope Village. People would say to me, I've met people down there in Florida that'll say, I never even knew this place existed. And I said, I think I've always known it existed. I feel like I've always known about it. About the fundraisers, about the location, because they used to be in another location than they are now, about the improvements they make, the additions, and just the commitment to providing a place for surviving spouses. As some of you know, and people have already spoken about it, there wasn't even survivor benefit plan until the year 1972. So, and their wages weren't that high anyway, but over the years, I kind of, as I moved on in life and married and everything, I kind of kept track of like what was going on in the Panhandle, and that there was a place now for widows. And my mom, who was an Air Force widow and a veteran herself, she ended up living there at the Air Force Enlisted Village. She just lived there a short time, for about a year. But in that year that she lived there, I got to go visit a lot. So I learned more about it and about what was going on, because I was a frequent visitor with her. And I was always impressed. I was impressed with the facilities, impressed with all the activities they had for the ladies and for everything going on. And they had transportation to take them to their medical appointment. They would even go pick up their meds for them. And as a daughter, that made me really feel great. It gave me a comfort feeling, and knowing that she was in a place where she was safe, she was secure, a place where she could afford to live, because she really didn't have a lot of income. And over the years, my dad and my husband had supported Air Force Enlisted Village through the Air Force Assistance Fund. And so when my mom moved there, I got to see really what those funds do and how they are worthwhile and provides a place for widows. Then as life goes on, and my husband passed away young, I found myself 6 years ago, I had the privilege of moving to Bob Hope Village myself. And I'm a proud Air Force surviving spouse. And I always used to tell my husband, because we'd always talk about it, because like I said, I feel like I've always known about Air Force Enlisted Village. I would tell him, if anything ever happens to you, I'm eventually probably going to go to Florida and live in Air Force Enlisted Village. And I am. And I love it there. I love living there. Have made friends that are like family to me. In my husband's career, we spent a lot of time overseas. And one thing I loved about that was we always had that feeling of community and camaraderie with our fellow Americans that were over there. Well, that's the same feeling I get at Bob Hope Village. Like, you make friends that become family. You make friends that people that are interested in doing what you like to do. Not everybody likes to do the same thing, of course, but like, I have friends that enjoy going with me to plays and musicals and out to eat and shopping and all that. And it's a quality of life I don't think I would get if I was just living off in a little apartment by myself somewhere. And I just think Bob Hope Village offers that, or AFEV. I actually moved there in the late fall of 2019, and I was really excited because I was going, oh, I'm going to get to do all the activities and, go down to the fitness center every day and all that. Well, everybody kind of knows what happened. In a few months after I moved in, we were deep in the pandemic. So all of those things were kind of put on hold for a while. We had shut down a few things. But I want to say the employees there did a great job. They did a great job of taking care of the residents, keeping the community as safe as possible. And I think we as residents are blessed with the devoted and caring staff at all levels. And anybody who gives or supports it, they make that more, you make that possible, that we have that kind of staff. Interesting story talking about community and how we're all one big family. When I moved there, I was talking to a couple of my neighbors, and this one lady, she lives only a couple of doors down from me, and she was telling me about her trip to Germany one year and how she went there to visit her son who was stationed there in the Air Force. And I said, oh, well, where did you go in Germany? And what year were you there? Because that's what you always ask people, what year were you there? And she started telling me that her son was at Bitburg and told me the year he was there. And I said, I was there too. We were there at the same time. So she goes, oh, that's interesting. So the next time her son called her, because he calls her like once a week, the next time her son called her, she said, there's a lady that moved down from me, and her husband was at Bitburg at the same time. And she told him my name, and he said, oh my gosh, was her husband's first name Guy? And she said, I think so. And he goes, he was my supervisor. And so it was really so sweet that when the next time he came to see her, he asked if he could come and visit me. And I said, sure, I'd love that. So he came to visit me. He told me all kinds of stories and about how much he admired my husband. And we had all this wonderful talk. And I thought that just made me confirmed even more to me that I was where I was supposed to be. I was thankful that we have a place like that. And I knew that it was just a confirmation my husband would be glad I was there. He would be happy. It was a God wink is what I call it. But I'm really grateful, thankful for the Air Force Enlisted Village, grateful for all they've done over the years, for all the widows that came before me, but myself and then the ones that will come after me. And I thank all of you, all the ones who've helped support it and have made it possible. Thank you.
Just thank our staff members for putting this together and the amazing work that went behind this. And thanks for all the team. We really appreciate you.